What's happening, everybody? My name is Julius.
I'm Brian.
Brian, we're here once again to talk about some horror movies because horror movies are what October was made for.
Ah, yes.
The people who put together the seasons, the calendars, and all that crap,
hmm
they did it for us so we could discuss horror movies
Exactly.
with us.
hmm
So, Brian, uh, before we continue with our horror discussion, since we've done a lot,
hmm
uh, through the conversations that we've had, right, of movies that we've watched, revisited, and talked about,
hmm
have there been any standouts to you that make you think, man, I really want to revisit that movie?
Man, actually, yeah, I was thinking about watching The Descent again with my grandma, because she loves that movie so much, and that movie's just their day. So yeah, I think I might rewatch it again when I get the chance.
So the movie that we're going to talk about today is Killer Klowns from Outer Space, which is a movie that I substituted another movie with because I feel like this is just a more exciting and more ridiculous film to add to the roster. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Brian, what is this movie about, and why is it considered such a cult classic?
Well, folks, to tell you right there, 8-year-old Brian was afraid of this film and made him afraid of clowns forever. To the
Right.
point where even as an adult, I'm afraid of clowns. But why is this a cult classic? I think it is a satirical, satirical review on horror movies and '80s films altogether.
Mm,
It's a very like if we were talking about practical effects and stuff. I love the costumes within here. Uh,
right.
Actually, every time when I go to Halloween Horror Nights, that's my favorite ride to go through. The Killer
The
Clowns.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space ride.
Yeah, it's very fun, just walking up in there and then I get so sorry about that, folks. Walking up in there and then just get a whole bunch of clowns, almost throwing pies in my face, and then the creepiness of the costumes and just,
Encasing
it's
you in cotton candy.
yeah, and also kind of gives me a lot of vibes of like The Thing, It's a mysterious alien sort of that we don't really know about until it's too late.
All you know is that they're looking like clowns and that they
hmm
have a whole motif going on within their weaponry,
Yeah.
their abduction means, their plans, just the whole thing. So this movie, the plot really doesn't matter when it comes to this movie because you just
Yeah.
watch it for the aesthetic and the camp factor of it. But it's about this girl and guy in a relationship. There's a little bit of a love triangle with like the policeman who goes throughout the film trying to figure out what is happening with the clowns, and it's mainly just these people, this love triangle being pushed from set piece to set piece, you
hmm
know, interacting with different clown, and then eventually you get an army invading the town, this little town in the middle of nowhere. Really weird. I mean, fun. There were a lot of movies like this back then that were really campy and cheap to make and with, you know, ridiculous ideas that didn't work. But this one seems to have lasted much longer. Do you think it's because people have such a fascination and worry when it comes to clowns? Or could it be something else like, oh, this is just a fun movie to watch?
I totally agree about the whole clown thing. I think a lot of things that scare most people is reality more than science fiction or just stuff of fiction. Like I would totally say that.
Because this is based off a true story, by the way.
Oh yeah,
The
it's
Killer
obviously
Clowns from
yeah,
Outer Space.
yeah, they're real. Yeah, every clown out there is not a human being.
Wow.
They're aliens. I know. No, but
That's just rude,
there's
Brian. That's like, I mean, clowns have to work hard to get their shit, especially when movies like It and Killer Clowns come out.
yeah
This puts a bad name on our rep,
on our rep. I was say there was a
on our street
documentary
cred.
on our street cred. There was a documentary talking about how there's this one guy who dresses up as a clown to scare children in order to make sure that they listen to their parents.
Yeah, that's pretty traumatizing.
Oh, it's super traumatizing. It's a really unique documentary. But that's besides from the point. Yeah, I think that you know, the more closer scary movies come to reality, the more people are mostly afraid of that sort of stuff, you know. And I think that's one of the fear factors that helped influence such a culture to be afraid of clowns. That with along with it and maybe some episodes of Goosebumps
Joker.
and Joker, of course.
Um, I feel like this would be the perfect film in a very morbid way
Mm.
of scary, like traumatizing kids when it comes to clowns. Obviously, that's the case for you, and I couldn't blame you because the clowns, the way they're designed, are pretty grotesque. Their giant heads are just really disturbing to look at. Even though I was laughing when I first watched the movie because it looks funny. The sets. One thing I noticed about the sets is that they're trying to get away with this whole mysterious vibe because a lot of it is just a middle prop, like a bench, a space-looking bench that's carnival infused, and then a black backdrop, just like a spotlight, and then everything else is dark and mysterious. And I feel like that's probably done to save some money. Um, but yeah, I mean, have you watched this with like a group of people? How many times have you watched it in the past?
Well, I actually never seen this with a group of people.
Hmm.
I watched it one time when I was little and got really afraid and I couldn't watch it again. And then I rewatched it 2 years ago when I decided I'm an adult and I can watch this. And
But
you
you
know what?
weren't an adult.
I wasn't an adult. No, I'm still a teenager. But no, it was a very fun movie experience. It's a super hilarious film. There's a lot of like unique kills within there and stuff like that. I'm a sucker when it comes to practical effects and stuff and
Yeah,
costume designing because I
cheesy
made some of
shit.
my own costumes and it's a super hard job to do and I respect people who fully commit to it.
Do it to that level. You
Get to
know,
that though, yeah.
in terms of camp horror, this was probably up there. Not in terms of quality, because I honestly I don't think it's a very good film, but
No, yeah.
but in terms of just if we're looking at icons of camp horror, I
Hmm.
feel like this would probably be up there
In
for a
like
lot of
top
people.
5, top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're just looking at it like most recognizable camp horror,
Hmm.
this is probably up there, because clowns are already freaky to people. I mean, you remember those clown sightings. I'm surprised that this didn't catch on with that, like these specific costumes, they were always going to Pennywise
Yeah,
when they probably should have been aping more of what Killer Clowns from Outer Space was doing.
kind
You
of,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Because like that's literally clown sighting the movie, except they're aliens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I
Okay,
definitely find
thank you,
their.
Brian.
No, I was gonna say, so sorry. I wanted you to finish first, but I was gonna say, yeah, definitely, I find the costumes of the Killer Clowns way more scarier than
And it,
Jim, not Jim Carrey. What am I talking
Jim
about?
Carrey himself,
Jim
the man
Carrey's. Yeah,
walking
no,
around reporters at red carpets.
no. I always forget his name. It's similar to Jim Carrey.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yeah, Tim Curry. Tim Curry is. I find their costumes way more scary than that. And then modern day Pennywise, I think it's a little bit more not as scary, but a little bit more creepy. You know,
Definitely more sinister.
sinister. Yeah.
That version of Pennywise is definitely going out of its way to
Hmm.
be more of a horror costume, whereas like
Yeah.
Tim Curry was just a clown, and his performance at times would be enough to frighten people. Even though I agree that I thought that he was more funny than than he was frightening,
Yeah.
and that's the same for these characters, these clowns, because the way they move, they move like guys that who wear suits at amusement parks. Like people like dressed up as
They're
Mickey or
bumping
something.
into people. They can't see what they're looking at. They're gonna die from 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 the heat stroke and stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of this video that I saw that was from Russia, where it was this guy in a truck tailgating these other guys in a truck, and then they pulled over. They came out to fight him. The guy who was tailgating came out first, and then the other guys came out, but they came out dressed in those
Oh yeah,
amusement
they
park
dressed up in
suits,
those music park
and
suits
they
and they
beat
all
him
beat
out.
him up.
They beat him up. It
It
was like
was
a
like a
Mickey.
Pikachu. There's a Mickey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a Scrat from Ice Age. They're just like, just wailing on this guy.
This poor guy's getting his butt kicked in by 4 random cartoon characters.
They were dressed like that. It's genius. It's genius and hilarious at the same time. Because they didn't
reminds
get
me of the scene from Baby Driver where they get Mike Myers. Mike Myers.
Mike Myers,
mask and
yeah.
Stuff.
Austin Powers mask.
Yeah.
Except these guys were probably coming from a kid's birthday party.
Probably.
And then they were on their way to the bar afterwards. In costume.
In costume. That's commitment right there.
And then this guy just amped them up. Oh man, now we're thirsty even more. Round on me on Scrat. Round on Scrat.
Can I get me an acorn in my beverage?
Exactly. So there is a sequel to Killer Klowns coming out, or it's been in production for years and years and years, right?
Oh wow. I did not know that.
The Return of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space in 3D.
If that's not an 80s title, then look at me.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know, right?
So how do you feel about it? Do you think Killer Klowns is a type of cult classic that needs a sequel years later, like so many other franchise films get?
I was saying, a lot of films that usually like to do remakes of cult classics, they like to take their time and stuff like that, make sure that it gains the title of a cult classic, and then usually ruin it. But I think it's the complete opposite when it comes to like a bad film, or like a film that's just not, it's not a bad film. It's just not the compared to like Forrest Gump or Castaway or Shawshank Redemption. It doesn't belong in that list. But
let's compare Killer Klowns of Outer Space to Forrest Gump, Castaway, and Shawshank. I'm actually picturing those clowns in those films.
Instead of the bullies in the truck following Gump, it's just the clowns.
Yeah, instead of like the prison guards in Shawshank, it's just those clowns.
Instead of the volleyball, it's just a piece of pie. Or like a Jack in the Box.
I'm sure he would have taken a piece of pie, dude, on that island.
Man, what hungry, man.
That would not have been Wilson. That would have been food. So Brian, are you ready for this movie question?
I am. Yes. Hit me up with the movie question.
What do you think that the Return of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space in 3D could be about? Pitch it, if you will.
Imagine. Take yourself into a view of a dark landscape. You see Killer Klowns. Return of the Killer Klowns in 3D. No,
was that it?
No, yeah, that's my pitch. That's my hard-winning pitch.
Okay.
Think about Gremlins 2. Look how successful that was. No,
actually, I'm pretty sure it was a failure.
Yes, it was a failure. I still like the movie. It's just a really funny, weird film. I think
out of here.
I think the Return, the sequel, it might be a little bit much more than like a small American town. It might be like a big city like New York or San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because most sequels always do that, It's like, from a small middle class town in the Midwest to like a large city.
Yeah.
So it will probably do that. It'll make a change from there, and then it will probably be like an army, similar to like Mars Attacks, like an army of clowns just fighting.
Or Independence Day.
or Independence Day, yeah. Just a. Oh my God! Imagine if they recreated the scene from Independence Day, and instead of the White House getting a laser on it, it's a cake.
I was thinking like a pie, just pies all over it.
Pies, yeah.
That would be great. When it comes to a sequel, I imagine that they'd want to satirize probably current science fiction and horror. So they'd probably add in some like social commentary, like about like racial prejudice and sexism and stuff like that. And one thing that I think would be really interesting is how they would commentate the kind of the recurrence of clown in media, because we have things like Pennywise and Joker, Harley Quinn, all those things. So I wonder if they'll incorporate any of that, maybe get a bit darker, and make that the joke.
I would love to see like a group of like middle school or teenage boys dressed up like Joker, and then one of the killer clowns walks in between them and like, hey man, that costume's kind of dumb. Like just like saying like a bunch of middle school terminology against this clown, and then the clown just like beats them up.
Yo, bitch! I'm the
just
Joker,
whoops them.
bitch!
I'm the Joker.
I'm the Joker, bitch!
Like it'd be even funny if like
why so serious, bitch?
If he just like does like the shadow puppet scene, right, with the T-Rex, and then he just says society.
That would be fun. I wonder if they'll incorporate the clown sightings into it.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that was kind of weird, dude.
That was really weird. I don't know why people would do that.
I knew one guy who's like, I'm going to train like Casey Jones and take these fools out. Get hockey sticks. Bust their knees.
I wonder if people still do it.
What?
I wonder if people still do clown.
I think they would. I think it would probably be prominent.
Yeah.
Imagine this podcast sets it off again. That's a good idea, guys.
It's a great idea. Let's do it.
Let's go back out there.
The GOAT Podcast is proof you don't have to look any further for movie news, reviews, trailer reactions, or special discussions. Subscribe, get notified about what's going on, and I promise you'll be entertained by our daily content on YouTube. If you want more, we're on Twitter at GOAT Film Podcast, Instagram The GOAT Podcast, and the GOAT Movie Group on Facebook. Get connected with us, see what's happening, and make sure to love it while you're doing so.